quite a sight for anyone to wake up to. A masked man stands in your room at night, wielding a knife. Nightmare fuel for many. Why is a stranger here at this time? Why are they wearing a creepy mask? Why are they carrying a knife? What is he going to do? These are all questions flowing through the minds of anyone when placed into a situation like this, and all of them are valid reasons for why we would feel intense fear. However, all of these concerns are removed and normality is resumed when the lights are turned on and the mask is removed, revealing it is no one other than your mate Phil, who just wanted to show you his Halloween costume and give you a fright in the process. But why did Phil's attempt to scare us work until all of these questions were answered? These are the same questions one might ask when analysing a horror film, as this short clip is a demonstration of some of the most effective techniques that filmmakers use to have us quiver in fear in our seats at the cinema, only to come back another day for an additional adrenaline rush. The reasons for this may have roots more grounded in evolutionary brain function than you think. To analyse the various techniques that provoke a fear response, we must view the different sources in this clip, focusing specifically on three sources: the knife, the mask, and the context of the situation, which is arguably one of the most impactful. But to start with the most basic example, the knife. The knife represents one of the most fundamental fears in highly regarded psychologist Stephen Rice's expectancy model, the fear of injury or death. Now, this is clearly a fear that most of us share, especially in younger generations, as research suggests, and that will give you a reasonable explanation for why it is the most common theme in horror films. However, with it being used so often in films, the fear of death is simply not enough to scare people these days, and filmmakers have to get a little bit more inventive. To show this, I want you to imagine a hypothetical situation where you have the choice between two rooms, one containing 3 man-eating tigers, and the other room being completely shrouded in darkness, and the only thing you can hear is the ominous laughter of a little girl. For a normal person with aspirations for self-preservation, they would choose the room without the tigers. However, if we were watching the same situation in a cinema, the reaction would be slightly different. In an environment like the cinema, where the threat of real danger is removed, filmmakers have to innovate new ways to terrify people that goes beyond simply the threat of death. It is the same experience that is felt when swimming in the open ocean, only to look down and see nothing but endless ocean. It is why we get nervous before exams. It is the terror you felt as a child, sitting alone in a room. It is unseen, but ever present. The fear of the unknown. Why would they be here at this unsociable time in your bedroom unannounced? The uncertainty of this odd situation evokes a fear response that we interpret as potentially dangerous or just plain creepy. This could explain why the once terrifying room full of tigers becomes less scary in the cinema, where the threat of real danger is removed, in comparison to the creepy dark room with the ambiguous child laughing. The fear of the unknown has been utilized frequently in horror texts since its inception in the 1920s by terror titan H.P. Lovecraft in his most popular books that include the Cthulhu mythos. Since then, psychologists have investigated the fear of the unknown as a fundamental source for many anxieties that relates to the many times someone may experience fear. Stephen Rice's expectancy model holds that there are 3 fundamental fears or sensitivities: the fear of injury, the fear of anxiety, and the fear of negative evaluation. The results suggested from the study were that simple phobias are sometimes motivated by expectations of panic attacks, and that the fundamental fears were distinct and accounted for significant proportions of variance in measures of other fears, with specific links being found between fundamental fears and common fears. This could suggest that a fear of heights is because of a fear of injury, or a hesitance towards attempting to accomplish difficult goals is related to a fear of failure and therefore negative evaluation. This begs the question, is the fear of the unknown a fundamental fear? Well, studies might suggest so. Scientists have reported that Americans are more likely to visit places they have visited before, as they have a more positive image of the destination, while studies examining attendance to baseball games suggest that fans are more likely to attend a game when the outcome is less unpredictable. Studies on pain predictability returned similar results when subjects were tested with 5 different intensities of electric stimulation, ranging from non-painful to extremely painful. Results detailed how unpredictable shocks produced the lowest pain ratings whilst evoking the highest reflex response, with heart rate data indicating that unpredictable trials were the most physiologically arousing. This could explain why the build-up to a scare in a horror film is sometimes more terror-evoking than the actual scare, which is made better by a strong building of suspense. Science suggests that the fear of the unknown could be fundamental, due to evolutionary reasons based on innate fears that we share with primates, with the examples of some of the classic fears many of us share: spiders and snakes. Spiders and snakes are common sources of terror for many and are household names in the horror genre, but whilst they are statistically less dangerous than mushrooms, no one shares the same fear for mushrooms as they do for our little critters. Scientists believe this is due to fear acquisition in primates, where a fear of snakes and spiders are acquired from a young age, most likely by their distinct fast movement and alien appearance of 8 beady eyes, unfamiliar scaly and hairy texture, and a familiar reptile head on an unfamiliar limbless body that is unique compared to many other animals we encounter, and as a result, anxiety increases upon an encounter. Additionally, primates instinctively avoid objects, animals, and areas of which they are not familiar with, and associate such with danger. However, fear is proven to subside when, with time and exposure to the source of fear, familiarity is established, thus making the primates more likely to explore the object or territory. This sensation is similarly felt when encountering the final source of fear in my example with Phil, the almost human-like mask that he wears. From classics such as Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre to more modern films such as The Purge and The Strangers, masks have been a staple in the horror genre due to what psychologists believe is an effective way to mask identity, emotions, and therefore intentions. This disconnects the wearer from everyone else, as they can be whoever they want to be, separated from normal social behavior and expectations, thus leading to people potentially viewing said person as a threat. Similarly to how clowns scare us with their constant smiling and laughing no matter the context of the situation, masks invoke fear due to emotional discourse that subverts expectations and confuses our brains. Famous anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss stated that the facial disguise temporarily eliminated from social intercourse that part of the body through which people have long believed the individual's personal feelings and attitudes are revealed or can be deliberately communicated to others. The face is the organ by which self and society carry on the largest portion of the communication in which they engage, not only linguistic communication, but paralinguistic as well. Thus, we instinctively conclude that they might be a threat instead of just Phil pulling a prank. Nice one, Phil. But let's focus on Phil and his mask again, particularly the way it unnervingly looks human, but something isn't right. This is a phenomenon known as the uncanny valley. First described in 1978 by robotics professor Masahiro Mori, the uncanny valley describes the moment a robot or computer-generated figure becomes almost identical to a human, and as a result causes unease and anxiety to the person viewing it. Masahiro Mori hypothesized that we gain affinity for robots as they appear to look more human. However, when they become too similar, we feel revulsion towards them, and thus the uncanny valley is created. And yes, Uncanny Valley has made its way into the film industry, although not always voluntarily. Viewers of Robert Zemeckis' Polar Express reported to be unnerved by the look of the CGI characters, whilst Tom Hooper's Hollywood rendition of Cats was the recipient of great criticism and ridicule for its use of CGI, combining human faces with the cats in a bizarre attempt to replicate the musical. However, when used correctly, the Uncanny Valley effect can be a great tool for instilling fear in the hearts of the viewers, with iRobot and Megan showing us how it can be used to a filmmaker's advantage. But going back to Phil, what do all of these things tell us about our fears? Well, put simply, Fundamental fears are embedded into the complex neural network within our brains that has kept us alive for thousands of years, and the fear of the unknown might just be one of those fundamental fears based on what we know about the uncanny valley, masks, clans, the deep ocean, etc. These are all fears that are based on our brain's anxiety-fueled threat detection that assumes fear and trepidation when familiarity and definitive answers are removed. And these are all tactics employed by the film industry to bridge the gap that has been left with the removal of danger in the safe environment of the cinema. Thus, our spines keep tingling as we try to understand the unknown. But how do we understand the unknown? What is swimming in the sea with you? What is lurking in your dark hallway? You don't know. And doesn't that make you scared? Thank you.